What's up? Are you coming or not? We are ready to go. This is going to be amazing. You need to make sure you are in the room at the Owning It and Living It experience November 1st through 3rd in Atlanta, Georgia. Don't worry about next year. Come this year. This year, I am giving away a fully renovated house, and I'm telling you right now that I'm not giving away one next year. Not only will you learn from me, you'll learn from so many amazing people in the industry. Henry Washington, Kendra Barnes, Jackie and Preston Perry, Lecrae Moore, Felipe, Ingrid, Sarah. You gotta be in the room though. This is the perfect conference to merge Black and brown culture with real estate knowledge. We are going to be dancing to Joanna and learning all about real estate. You're gonna actually learn some specific strategies that's gonna help you scale to the next level. Go ahead, go to the link below and grab your ticket today.
It's wild because I never in a million years thought I'd be a real estate investor. Like it was nothing I ever saw myself doing. And it's not because I didn't think I could. I just never considered it.
A person's wealth is determined by their assets, investments, and things that they own. I say true wealth is about how you live it. Your girl is back. Welcome to season 2 of Wealth Within Reach. Welcome back to another episode of Wealth Within Reach, and I have a special one for you today. All right, so I have a really good friend joining us on the episode today. You may know her as the Key Resource. I know her as my good friend Kendra, that I really don't know how we actually met. But outside of that, we'll talk about more of that in a minute. Outside of that, Kendra is an amazing real estate investor. She's legit like the resource. She retired at the age of 32 years old, y'all, from real estate investing. 32 years old. She is a boss. She is a mom, a wife, homeschool mom, and she is here to share all the good details, how to scale, how to grow your profits, what tools that you can use to make things easier, all the good stuff. So welcome, Kendra.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here, friend.
Yes, I'm excited.
Okay, so do you remember how we met?
Yes. So
I don't remember.
You commented on the Instagram post that I did.
Okay.
And then whatever you said, I realized you were an investor too. And I love meeting other young Black investors. So I went to your page. I'm like, she seems really cool.
Yes.
And I think I downloaded your Airbnb guide and stuff like that. And just like to see what you were doing.
Yay.
And then we connected and the rest is history.
I don't remember. I just remember following you and then all of a sudden being friends. That's it. I don't know, like, when I gave you my number. I don't remember any of that.
That's hilarious.
And I love it because I love this because I love our friendship because we legit are real friends in real life. And we went from like the app that, you know, we all talk about the negative things of social media.
Right.
But I feel like our friendship is a true testament to some of the benefits to social media.
Right. We took it off the app into real life.
Yes. And in addition to that, we formed a group together of other Black female real estate investors, and we travel and the group chat and
the group chat is lit.
It's lit. It's stay lit. It really does. Everybody need a group chat, like legit. No, but thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so I want to know, like, what initially made you like consider real estate? Like, what specifically, like, what made you be like, real estate investing?
It's wild because I never in a million years thought I'd be a real estate investor. Like it was nothing I ever saw myself doing. And it's not because I didn't think I could. I just never considered it.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't like in my realm of possibilities. But one day my husband and I went to a game night and they had the game CASHFLOW. Have you played it before?
Yeah, I have it. Yep.
So it was our first time playing it. And that's what was like the aha moment for us. So if you've never played CASHFLOW before, the object of the game is to live your dream life. The only way you can do that is if your passive income exceeds your expenses, right? So the game mimics real life. Like you have a job, you might have kids, you have expenses and things like that, and you're just going through the hamster wheel of life. But to get off of it, you have to invest. And so the only way you can win cash flow is to invest in real estate, really. Like you're not winning it without investing in real estate and somehow.
Yeah.
So my husband and I left that game night that night and were like, why aren't we investing in real life? Like, you know what I'm saying? No one had ever talked to us about it. And so we went from the game night was like a Saturday. That Monday, we were looking at properties.
Wow.
And then...
Were you a homeowner yet?
We owned a home.
Okay.
And honestly, it's so funny thinking back because we saw that as like our one and done home.
Wow.
We would just live there forever, right?
Yeah.
Like we had the government jobs, we got married, you know, we were going to do all the things in order they tell you this is what you have to do to be successful.
Right.
Like checking off all the boxes. But that game night made me wake up to the fact that, oh, we should like make money in our sleep too. And at the time, I always wanted to leave my 9 to 5. And so I was like this, like a serial side hustler.
Yes.
But what I found was that with the limited time in the day, I could never really get to a point where I could make as much as my 9 to 5. I had a really successful e-commerce business. I still couldn't get it to a point where my e-commerce business income could like
really
be as much as my 9 to 5.
Yeah.
So real estate was that thing for us. It was like, oh, there's really, you can make money without really having to show up in it every day, all day.
Right.
And so that's kind of what we took from it. And then we just kind of got addicted to it from there.
Wow. I love that. Cash flow. So if you guys aren't familiar with that, this is Robert Kiyosaki, the author of
Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, one of my favorite books. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He has a game called Cash Flow. It's not a cheap game, but it's really good. We have it at home.
It's good.
Yes, I love it. Okay, so you mentioned you both had government jobs. You also had a side hustle. The more and more I learn about you, the more I learn about your different side hustles that I'm like, you did that too, girl? What? You did that too?
I know.
But so talk to me. Why did you want to retire? Because I know for me, I was in that corporate life too. And I also didn't think I was going to invest in real estate. It wasn't like even a thing to consider. And I really thought like, I was going to work the standard till I'm 65 and climb the corporate ladder. What made you decide early on that this life is not for me?
I always knew it wasn't. Even in grad school, like going to, on that path, I was like, I am just, and I don't want anyone to think I'm like 9 to 5 bashing, because there is power in working a 9 to 5 and you can work a 9 to 5 and invest in real estate at the same time. Yes. For me, I just, how you just know yourself?
Yes.
And I was like, this is not for me. Yeah. Like, I really wanted more ownership of my time, and I wanted to live kind of like a non-traditional life as far as work is concerned. Yeah. And so I just always knew it, but I could not figure out how to get there. Yeah. And real estate just wasn't something anyone ever talked about to me. And so once we got into it, I'm like, I need to tell more people about this. Like, you can really do this, and it can really like change your life.
I love it. I love it. One thing I hear with people who either have like retired from their 9 to 5 or who desire to retire from their 9 to 5, there's a common thread. And these are people who like, I want to control my time. Yeah. Like, it's not about being rich. It's not about, all those things. It's about being able to control their time, because time is really the only thing that we cannot control. Right. And, we all have these like big disruptions that occur that kind of really like make us make a decision. Yeah. Because I work with lots of people who I always poll and say, how long have you been thinking about investing in real estate? And I hear 10 years, 15 years, 16 years. But for the people who actually take the leap, something big happens to where they're like, okay, this is something's going to change. What was that like great disruption for you? Are you tired of wasting so much time pulling data, reviewing comps, and trying to put together the financing to do your next deal? Guess what? You don't have to do all that. Backflip helps you to analyze properties instantly, helps you to pull high quality comps. You can actually apply for loans directly through the app while also choosing your best investment strategy. All you have to do is download the free Backflip app now and go on your way to make smarter, faster, and more profitable decisions today.
Honestly, it was playing the game got us started. Yeah. And then seeing how much money we made with that first property. Yeah. I was like, I want to quit right now. My husband was like, let's make sure that we can actually like sustain this. Yes. But I think that was it for me. But to your point, I think a lot of people get to a point in their life where they're like, oh my gosh, I have to invest in real estate right now so I can change my life right now. And it's not like that.
It's a long game.
It is a long game. And so I do want to encourage people, like, that's why you should get started now, even if it's the small steps, because it's not an overnight thing.
It's
Despite
not
what you see on social media. It's not.
It's not. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. So you're you guys played the cash flow game. You're motivated. What did you do next? Like, what was your kind of like next step? Because you already owned a home. Did you start reading books? Like, what did you do to educate yourself so that you knew what to do next?
We made really expensive mistakes.
Okay.
Because there were, real estate education back then. And I'm like, back then, like back in the day, this is like 2014, 2015.
Yeah.
Real estate education did not represent us at all. So I didn't know of any books, podcasts. There was no amazing podcast like this for me to listen to. And so we were out there literally just making expensive mistakes. And that's why being in the room is so important. That's why like being surrounded by the right people is so important. Because you're going to either pay with your time and money now, or you will pay along the way. And it could be way more expensive doing it, right?
Y'all hear that?
Way. Yeah.
You're going to pay one way?
You will pay.
You're going to pay.
Yeah. And we made really expensive mistakes. So we bought our first property. It was a duplex in Washington, D.C. And we just kind of just fumbled through it. We had a tenant already in one side. The other side was empty. The tenant moved out unexpectedly. We had no idea how to find tenants. We're like, oh, wait, we should have probably thought about that. Like, how do we find tenants, And so it was one of those things. But once we really started going and saw how amazing it was, I was like, I need to tell people what I've learned because I'm like, first of all, does anyone my age who looks like me, do they even know they can do this?
Right.
Because my husband and I, we were not born into wealth. We didn't hit the lottery. I didn't even have very good spending habits well into my 20s. And so I wanted people to know that if we can do it, like you literally can do it. And so that's kind of
I love that.
Why I'm here.
I love it. This is how the key resource was invented. Okay, so you bought the property in DC, the duplex, and then did you guys move in on one side, or how did you?
We did not know about house hacking. So I always say that our first property was like a $50,000 mistake because we didn't know about house hacking. Because when you buy a rental property, you put down 25%, but if you buy a primary residence that you live in, you can put down 0%, 3%, 3.5%, 5%. Like it's much more affordable because you're living in it. So house hacking is buying a multi-unit property, living in one side, renting out the other. And in that case, we didn't know. We thought the only way to do it was to put down that 25%. We ended up borrowing from our retirement accounts to be able to afford it. But it ended up being a really, really good investment. We just had to kind of fumble our way through it. We found out about house hacking the next property we bought, and we did house hack a 4-unit apartment building in DC.
Nice.
And put down less on the 4-unit than we did on the duplex.
Just and was making more money for sure.
Way more money because we were living there. And so it's like the power of knowledge. If someone would have just told me, but back then real estate education just wasn't very accessible. Right. And so we just didn't know. Yeah.
And I really feel like real estate investing specifically, it can feel very intimidating. It can feel intimidating, like in general, like financially. And then when you look around, if you don't know other people that look like you that are doing it, that's just like another layer of intimidation. So this is why, what we do is really important. This is also why we need more of us.
That's right.
Like me, and this is one thing I actually love about you, Kendra, and where I feel like why we've probably gotten so close is because we both very much have like abundant mindset, like there's like way enough room for everyone to win and everyone to eat.
That's right.
Because we like see like the need for the knowledge.
Yes.
It's
and
really
that's
important.
what I love about real estate investing, because there's literally room for everybody to be at the table.
Yes.
So whether you want to flip or do wholesaling or whatever, and like we all can eat, like there's no competition.
Yes. There's so many different strategies and there's so many ways to invest in real estate. But I have a question for you. Do you feel like real estate investing is passive?
Not all the time.
Okay.
But I love that it can be passive most of the time.
Okay.
Right. And I guess it depends on what kind of investing you do. And that's where, that's where the discussion comes in of like what strategy is best for each person.
Yeah.
But I think what I've experienced is there are months when I don't hear from any tenants, everything is fine. And then there's like a week where I feel like everything's breaking. But my husband and I were just talking about this recently where even those hard weeks were not as hard as me going to a 9-to-5 that I hated.
Ooh,
right?
Yes.
And so I have to put that in perspective, because I might work in my real estate investing business like a few minutes or maybe an hour a day, if that.
Yeah.
But that 9-to-5 was every single day, right? The commute, all of that. And so I have to put it into perspective. Even if I have a hard day in real estate,
Yeah.
what about like a hard life doing something that I genuinely did not want to do?
Yes. Pick your heart.
Yeah.
It's hard. Pick it.
Because I don't want to paint this rosy picture that like real estate investing is just so easy all the time. It's not.
It's not.
But it's also worth it
Yes.
to me. And that's why it's so important to like make sure that you're getting into real estate for you and not because you saw this podcast and because I said it's amazing. Like that's such a big part of the journey, is making sure you're doing it and setting a goal that's like good for you.
Yes, I agree. And so you touched on like so many amazing things. So it is not fully passive. Like you mentioned, there are moments, especially when you first acquire property, like you are, you're putting more time in it when you're like starting it up. And then like once it's stabilized, then it should like ease off, but then there may be times where you have to jump in as well. So I agree. There are different types of investing. Like right now, we have been doing more flips than we have been buying rentals because of the market. And so that's different than passive, because it's like very much active. Like you got to make sure the contractors are showing up. You have to like make sure you're staying on track with the budget. It's much different, and it's even taxed differently. As a flipper, like you're paying a lot more in taxes than you are, when you are passively investing or rental properties, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've actually never done a flip. I do want to do one though.
Okay.
Like I want to do like a little cosmetic flip, but I've only done buy and hold.
Okay.
And I talked to some investors who were like, why would you do buy and hold? Like, because with flipping, you can make a large amount of money in a short amount of time. Yeah. But it's really stressful. It's intense. Yes. Well, I won't say it's always stressful, but it can be because you're depending on contractors and how that can go.
Yes. What made you hold off on wanting to flip?
I don't know. Like in the market we were doing rentals in, or we are doing rentals in, the money was just so good doing it like that. And we wanted the long term. And our experience with contractors was like, should we really like put all of our like eggs in that basket where the outcome is dependent on them?
Yes.
So, and like even for the buy and hold that we've done, we've never done like a full rehab. So for me, it's like turnkey or very cosmetic. So every investor is different, right? And
which I love that. I love that. And then you can like, again, season of life, you can try different things. Okay. So tell me, break down like what type of rental strategies do you use with your properties?
I've done everything.
Okay.
From like a regular renter to Section 8, Airbnb, travel nurses. Like we've literally tried everything.
I love it. What's your favorite?
Midterm rentals right now. So travel nurses specifically, but a midterm rental could be, a corporate renter, travel nurse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what specifically is a midterm rental? Like what's the qualification of like time frame that makes it midterm?
So midterm rental would be the renter is staying for like about 3 months at a time. So if you think about it, you'd have like 4 tenants a year, as opposed to short-term rental like Airbnb. You might have a new guest every 2 nights, or a long-term renter might be there from a year to 5 years or more. You know, so midterm is kind of that sweet spot, and I specifically focus on travel nurses.
Why travel nurses?
It's just what I started doing. I was doing travel nurses back in 2018, and I kind of fell into that randomly too. People think that
you were doing it pre-COVID?
Yes, everyone. And if you look, I have a Instagram video way back in 2018. I was telling y'all about travel nurses. Now everybody's on travel.
Everybody want to jump on the train now.
Yes, but I was talking about it back then, and it was random how I fell into it, because we had a condo that we were about to actually live in, but we decided not to. But all of our furniture was there, and I didn't want to have to deal with like moving the furniture out and all that stuff. And I'm like, how can we just rent this furnished? Yeah. Because I wanted the furniture later, but I didn't know what to do with it. Yeah. And I just Googled like something about furnished rentals or something, and then the travel nurse site came up. Wow. And I was like, we should try this, because we were going to be living out of state, and I knew Airbnb would be too much for us to handle at the time. I was about to have a baby, and I was like, I don't want to do Airbnb and like worry about that right now. Yeah. And so we just tried it. Yeah. And it was like, this is actually really dope. Like I loved it. So we just been doing it since then.
You have a really great YouTube series that you did where you broke down like step by step what someone needs to do to set up their midterm rental.
Oh yeah.
I share it with all of my students.
Oh, thanks.
They be asking me, what should I do? And I was like, let me just link this video real quick. It's like, what's the point of me creating a resource when Kendra already has one?
Yes.
So we'll definitely link it in the show notes, but it's so good. Like you literally are walking people through step by step, like what to do. Okay. So with midterm rental, how much more can someone make on average than they can for long-term rental?
I think it depends on the market, but I think the statistic is like 30% more.
Okay, that's good.
An average of 30% more.
Yeah.
So it could be 20 to 40. Yeah, because you're including the furniture, utilities, and Wi-Fi. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to make as much as Airbnb, but you're going to make more than a long-term rental. So it's like, it's really that sweet spot.
It's a good sweet spot. Mm-hmm. And it's less turnover.
Less turnover, yeah.
Okay, so if someone they're buying their first property, they worked on their mindset and they're like, okay, I'm ready to go. They have their finances together. And most of the time, like actually what people don't realize is that Black and brown people, we doing okay. Like we actually we got money. Like
right,
I know they think we don't, but we do. Yeah. Because we are some of the biggest consumers in the United States, right? And so anyways, here nor there. Let's not go on the soapbox today. I
was ready to go.
I know you were. You were like, you about to drop the data. But so once we like start believing we can actually do this and we have all of our stuff in line and we, hire a mentor, whatever we need to do, we have our strategy, we go under contract for a property, right? What does a person need to do? Like, how do they decide what their rental strategy is? What does that process look like for someone?
Yeah, I think two things. One, the really important thing is to make sure you're setting a very clear money goal in the beginning. Mm-hmm. Like you cannot just start investing because it's good, because it is good.
Right.
But like, how much do you want to make?
Yes.
Once you decide what that monthly number is, that can help you easily back into what kind of property you need to buy.
I love that.
How much money do you have to invest? How much money do you want to make? Because people are like, how many properties do I need to quit my 9 to 5? I'm like, I don't know. Like, how much do you need to survive? Where are you investing at? Because 5 properties in Detroit is not the same as 5 properties in DC. You're not going to make the same amount of money. So there's no number.
Right.
And then the other thing is always putting yourself in a position to pivot, because people will identify a property and be like, okay, I can make $5,000 a month on Airbnb. And you can. Mm-hmm. But what happens if your city says, no more Airbnb?
Right.
What happens if you get a bad review and now you're not getting as many bookings?
And they kick you off.
So
been there.
Yes. Yes. And it's like, can that property still be profitable with Section 8, with travel nurses or anything? And like I said, all profit's not going to be the same. Like Airbnb, you can make a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
But even if you can't make as much as Airbnb, if you put it on Section 8, could it still be a winner? So I think, for me, I'm not going to buy a property that they can't make money at least 3 ways. If only one way is profitable.
Say that one more time. Hold on. Say that one. That is a gem. One more time.
Do not buy a property, I'm not going to buy a property unless it can make money at least 3 ways. Because I want to position myself to pivot and still be profitable. And even though all profit is not going to be the same for each strategy, as long as I'm profitable enough to meet my specific income goal, then I've done a good job.
I love that. That's so good. And I know someone is right there now. And you're saying, oh, but how do I do that with these interest rates? Like you can through house hacking, through multifamily investing. That is very much possible. Oh, I love that. I tell my students that all the time. Like the folks who within the last few years have purchased properties based off of Airbnb rental income potential. Whoa.
That's scary.
That's scary.
It really is.
Yeah. It really is. I agree. Okay. So one of the things that I love so much about you and just I learn from you all the time is that you are legit the key resource. Like if you need a resource, just ask Kendra, right? Like it's like this is how we exist in our group chat. Like anybody needs something, they're like, is there an app that does da? It's like, all right. So you truly are the key resource. Like in our group chat, if somebody needs something, we're like, ask Kendra. She has an app for that. Okay. So you currently self-manage multiple properties in different states.
Yeah.
How?
Technology. And when I started out, like all of the apps and things that exist now were not there. So I just remember like piecing it together. It was super scrappy, but now there's apps for like rental management, rent collection. Like there's no reason to have to collect rent in person anymore.
Yeah.
So I use a lot of different apps and thank God for technology. That's how we're able to do it. But honestly, too, just trial and error and systems and figuring out what works best for us.
Yeah.
That's
really good. Like I remember one time I was out of town. It was like Christmas or the day after Christmas. And I had an Airbnb. I was out of town and it was a unit that had 2 bedroom, 1 bath. So it was only 1 bathroom.
Ooh.
And the toilet just wasn't working. And so it's one of those things like it has to be fixed ASAP.
Yep.
And so I used the app that you recommended to me, like to be able to like find people like on demand, and they were able to come out like the same day.
Yeah,
So,
I love that.
Yeah, I was like, Kendra she does her thing.
And you know what I learned about that too, though? Like managing properties, self-managing, we learned a lot by, like a tenant would call us with an issue and we'll just immediately hire a professional to go and see to that issue. And we learn quickly we should have pictures sent to us, videos, because oftentimes it's such an easy fix. Like just push that button right there.
Yes.
And now we've spent $800 on like an emergency HVAC technician.
Yes.
If we would have seen it. And so now pictures, videos, a FaceTime, you know what I'm saying? And so things like technology has really helped us.
Yes, I've learned that. I learned that from you as well, like doing that. Because every time a service provider comes out, they're going to charge you a service fee.
Exactly.
So like, and if you're making $400 a month in cash flow, one single repair can potentially like wipe out your cash flow for the entire month.
Let's talk about that.
Okay, let's talk about
I feel like people aren't thinking about that either because there has to be like, you have a personal goal for how much you want to make, but you also got to think about that too, because these expenses will come out of nowhere. And I'm like, $200 in cash flow it's not enough.
Yes.
One repair and you've made no money.
For the whole year.
Like, that's wild.
Yes.
So there's got to be, you got to think about that.
And that's crazy, because I was actually going to ask you, what is the biggest mistake that you see new investors make? Is it that, or is it something else?
I think it's not putting themselves in a position to pivot. That's probably the biggest one. But I think making $200 in cash flow that is a dangerous game. Yeah. Unless some people do invest for appreciation though.
Yes.
But that also, there's levels to real estate investing. You know what I'm saying?
Let's talk about that.
And I feel like when you're a new investor, if you're building wealth from the ground up, you're probably not starting with a lot of money.
Yes.
And so you may not be able to afford the best and easiest property first. So when you look at me and you look at Erica and you see what we're doing now, there's levels to this.
Yes.
Like it did not start out. It's almost like you got to get jumped in.
Yes.
And so you just got to like handle that like first level, and then I think it gets more passive as you go along, because once you build up capital, you can start investing in like easier properties that don't need as many repairs and things like that. Yeah. But it is levels to it.
Yeah. I always tell my clients it's important when you're first starting out to just try to find a quick win, because a quick win is, a good property that doesn't need a lot of work, that the numbers are good, you have multiple exit strategies, and that are just like a no-brainer for you. Because if it turns out like really, really difficult, really hard for your first property, you're not going to want to keep doing it. And then you miss out on all the benefits that real estate does provide. And I think that's just I think it's so important to consider, for sure.
Yeah.
So in 2024, if someone's here today and they're like, okay, Kendra, I want to start investing. Like, what is the easiest strategy for someone starting out to jump in today?
And my personal opinion, it would be house hacking, or what you call the step up method. Okay. So the step up method is like buying a house for yourself, living in it as a primary residence, and then a year or two later, buying a new house for yourself and renting that house out. Because people often are like, well, how am I going to get a rental property? I own a house, but I can't afford a rental. And I'm like, you're living in your rental. Yes. So making that if the numbers work out. And I guess that's what I've been doing. Like recently, I've been doing the step up method,
I
right?
love it.
Because when you buy a primary residence, you only have to put down, depending on if you're a first time home buyer or a repeat buyer, using FHA, like 3 to 5%, right? And for the first time home buyers out there too, there's a lot of like down payment assistance you can use. And so if you are not even a home buyer yet, starting out with that first property using down payment assistance, putting little to nothing down, living in it as long as you need to satisfy the requirements for that loan, turning it into a rental. And this is another thing too, like talking about the step-up method for first-time home buyers, if you're listening to this and you're about to be a first-time home buyer, buying a property, making it a rental is like one of your goals. You look at buying a property differently.
Yes,
so this is not your forever home.
This
like you're like, okay, I do like this home for me right now, and it could also make a good rental because of these things.
Yes.
So how much can you make in rental income, which is there are different sites that will tell you, put the address in. They'll tell you how much you can make in rental income from that property. So I think you look at home buying differently when you're like, I could also turn this into a rental.
Yes.
So the step up method I think is really good, especially if you're about to be a first time home buyer or you already own a home and you feel stuck. Mm-hmm. And then house hacking, which is what I wish I had known about years ago. And the funny thing too is I tell the story about making a $50,000 mistake, not knowing about house hacking because we could have moved into that duplex, put way less down. But at the time, my mindset wasn't even there. And so I say I wish I had known, but if I did, I probably wouldn't want to do it because my husband and I lived in a big house. We were very comfortable, really too much space for two people, I think.
Yeah.
But we had, the basement and like a little movie theater room and the custom closets and all these things.
Yeah.
And I would not have wanted to give that up to stay in a 1-bedroom apartment for a year because the duplex had like 2 1-bedroom apartments.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that mindset, like you talk about, is so important too, because even with the knowledge back then, I would have gone kicking and screaming.
Right. You would have been like, what you mean? Like move in a 1-bedroom? Like what?
And I'm the one who wanted to leave my 9 to 5, but I wasn't willing to make the sacrifice. But then when I realized like, oh, that's what it's going to take. And honestly, house hacking for me and my husband was the thing that got us to financial freedom. Yeah. Because when you're house hacking, you're buying a multi-unit property, you're living in one, renting out the others, right? So essentially you could be living there for free depending on how the numbers work out. Yeah. And you're making money from it. And I want to say this too, like the benefits of house hacking, there are many. But the primary thing is to be able to live what they call like mortgage free. So your tenants are paying for your mortgage. But people house hack with different goals. Some people house hack and say like, I want to make at least $500 a month and have all the expenses covered by rental income. Yep. Some people house hack and they're like, I just want to break even. I don't even care because I'm not paying for this asset. My tenants are paying for this asset. Yes. So it's like, imagine that. Imagine owning an asset that will hopefully appreciate over time and you're not paying for it.
I love it. And I like how you mentioned like your different goals and like starting there. One thing my clients tell me, like I was talking to someone recently and she was saying that she wanted to invest in real estate. And I was like, okay, that sounds great. Like talk to me about like why, like what are your goals? What are you working towards? And she was just like, I don't know. I just want to invest in real estate. And I really tried to help them to like really dig deep and like figure it out and reverse engineer because based on your goals will determine the type of investing you need to do. So like some people are appreciation investors. So these are people who they have no desire to like quit like their 9 to 5 or retire early and they really love what they do. They just want to have financial options later. And then there are some people who like, I can't stay in this job. I'm not called to do this. This needs to like I want to do something else. And those people, they need to have a strategy where they're focused more on cash flow because they're going to be looking to replace their income sooner. And so I just think it's really important to like identify that on the front end because I meet people all the time that come to me after they've invested and then they're like, help me. And I'm like, okay, talk to me about your situation. And I was like, well, you're a cash flow investor, but you just bought a property where you're having to contribute $200 extra to the property per month from your personal, like, and so I just really think that it speaks to the value of like being in the room. Also, something that you mentioned that was really important that we really always tend to gloss over. And especially if you're in rooms where they're heavy, like strategy, they don't address the mindset shift that's involved. How you cannot realize that is what's holding you back. So you mentioned in the beginning, not having the right mindset to see the opportunities in front of you. Since you've been investing, what has helped to like really change your mindset to think more of like an investor long-term?
I think just living it and like seeing the benefits firsthand. And I'm like, okay, girl, you gotta get your mind right because you're the one who wants to be free anyway. So this is what you gotta do to get yourself free, right? So I think you learn along the way. But if I had been in the room, then people like you or me, if I would have met someone like us back then, then I would have learned that. Right. And so, it's definitely a journey.
I definitely agree too. Like I was one of those people where I had a limited amount of knowledge. I, like you, bought my first property, putting down 20% because I didn't know
exactly
like what the other options were. And my mindset, and so some people are like us where they are willing to like take a risk without having like all the details, but then we end up making mistakes because we didn't have the details we needed.
Yeah.
But one thing I think that we both agree on that we did was we learned really quickly that we need to invest in our education. We need to go to conferences. We need to like get in the room to find other people to learn from.
That's right.
When did that shift happen to you, and how has that impacted your journey?
Yeah, that's why I like early on really loved when I would randomly come across like young Black investors on social media. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like you just want to reach out and connect because it being with those people, like-minded people, it's honestly priceless. It's transformational. Like you learn about different things that you would have never known, or like you can share ideas, bounce ideas off each other. Like it's so powerful.
Yes.
And I recently experienced that, even though I've been investing for over 10 years, going to Deandra's workshop and being like, I left feeling like a new person. And it wasn't about anything I learned. It was really about, it was just the energy. It was like, I just felt so motivated to like try new stuff.
Yes.
But I've never done a flip. And now here I am looking for a flip.
Look at that.
I feel like no matter what stage of investing you're in, being in the room is priceless. It really is.
I think it helps you. People really don't realize how much their environment really truly affects their mindset, and how we can just be existing and taking in information and really not understanding how much it affects our belief system.
That's right.
And what our belief system is, our behavior flows out of that. And so one of the things that I am constantly on a mission to like help people understand is like you actually have the tools and you're in a financial position to take the leap, but you got to believe that you can do it. And it's something about being in the room and seeing other people who look like you, who working with the same type of situation, doing it. And it really does help to say, oh, okay, maybe I haven't flipped before, but that would be cool to try. And, all those different things. So I really think it's important.
And you do a great job of like curating those spaces too. That's what I love about you. I might got the resources on lock, but you have the room on lock. Like you're really great at like bringing people together and really creating a space for people to thrive. So
I love it. Thank you. This is really like a calling that I like feel like God has called me to, for sure.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So now let's talk about the space that you created through Acres.
Yeah.
What is Acres?
So Acres is my book that I curated and wrote. It's a coffee table book, and it's about 25 young Black investors who are building wealth with real estate. And I created this book for the same reason you just said. Like you really need to see yourself represented in different stories. Yeah. Which is why I started the key resource. And it's not because I have all the answers or had all the answers. It's because I knew people seeing me would give them the power to try it. Yes. Like, hey, look at me. This is where I came from. And what I love about everyone in this book is none of them came from wealth. We all, Erica's in the book too, y'all. Erica's in the book too. But it was really important for me. Like, this is Black history. Yes. So everything they said or thought we couldn't do, we're doing it. Like the stories in this book are so powerful. And I'm so humbled that I was able to like do it. I'm so honored that you guys let me share your stories. And the stories I've gotten back from people who have read it and been like, oh my goodness. They'll see something about themselves represented in everyone in here. And so, not only do our stories deserve to be told, but they deserve to be told in a beautiful way. And that's why I want it to be like full of beautiful images and stories. Yes. And so, that's what Acres is about. And of course, the name is like a play on 40 Acres and a Mule that we never got, but we are getting it on our own anyway.
Do you know really what like happened with the 40 acres? Like I know it's like a thing, but we don't really actually know like what happened.
Yes, but let me see if it's the same story that you know.
Okay. So basically, after the Civil War, all this land was now owned from the Confederacy by the United States. And it was like thousands and thousands and thousands of acres of seized land that the United States now owned. And President Lincoln has signed a bill where he was actually going to give 40 acres and a mule to the new free slaves.
Yeah.
And that was actually a part of like why the assassination like really had to go down, because it was like, hold on. So anyways, he was assassinated. The bill had already been signed. And so now Andrew Johnson is now president. So Andrew Johnson was from the South, but he grew up a poor white, right? And so he grew up really, being jealous of the big like planters and people who had all the money. So that's kind of how he was able to like run on Lincoln's platform or whatever. So then he is now president, and all of a sudden the people who he really didn't like at first, they started calling on him. They're trying to welcome him into the good old boy gang and all that kind of stuff. And then he changed his mind. And then he actually changed his mind, gave them the land back. And then that's how it was like taken from us. Right. So when I learned that, I was like, wow.
Yep.
It was crazy.
It is crazy.
It's really crazy.
It's wild.
So I think Acres, your book, is such a gem. It's such a gift. This is why like I give it to every single client that I have. I appreciate that. I'm like, we got to order another round of Acres, because it's so important for our stories to be told, because we are actually here. Yeah. And this is why it's even more important to be in the room and to come to the Owning and Living experience. Yes. Because it's really going to change your life, seeing this group of 500 Black and brown real estate investors and people who are excited about real estate, and seeing the speakers be reflecting who you are too. So like for in your experience of being an investor for 10 plus years, how many like real estate conferences have you been to where you actually see like a diverse panel of investors?
None.
They be thinking that we are not here.
And that's why I'm
so excited. And it's just like one or two of us.
Exactly. And that's why I'm so excited about yours, because that is the representation we need. Yeah. And we need the safe space to like fully be ourselves and be understood and like, right? So it's going to be amazing. It is. Like that is the room that you need to be in, y'all. Like don't even play. Go ahead and get the ticket. I can't wait. Like personally, I know I'm going to walk away from it so full. Yes. And I can't wait to meet y'all there.
Yes, it's so good, so good. Okay, I love it. So this has been amazing. I want to end with a new segment that we're adding, called Owning It and Living It. And so Owning It and Living It is my brand. And what I believe in, I believe that it's important to build wealth to provide like future financial options. But I also don't subscribe to like the hustle culture of, we gotta grind, we gotta do this, and we have to like, store up all these like riches and material stuff and stuff like that. And then like, it's about that either. Like I believe that ownership actually provides you an opportunity to experience freedom and to be able to, give time to the things that's important to you. Right. Yeah. So what does owning and living it mean to you?
I feel like ownership gives you options. So it's the option to live a life that is wealthy for you, like whatever wealth means to you. And it does not have to be material things. Yeah. So it's that time ownership and things like that. Now, as a mom, what I love about it is I don't care if my daughter doesn't want to invest in real estate, but the fact that she sees that we did it, like we can do hard things. I'm gonna cry. I was like, it makes me emotional, because it's like, I just want her to see that she can do whatever she wants to do. Yeah. Like, I don't care what people say, or what people say you can or can't do. Yeah. You can break down all those barriers. And so I love that we get to, lay that foundation for her. Yeah. But I love the life that I've been able to create by being able to leave my 9-to-5, because I've been able to homeschool. And like I was telling you the other day, my daughter and I went to New York on a random Tuesday with all of my retired aunts, and she was creating memories, very fancy memories, with her great aunts in the middle of a week at 11 a.m.
in New York, and having high tea.
Having high tea as a 5-year-old. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, what a life. And it's crazy, because since I left my job in 2019, for all these years, I have not had an alarm clock. I don't use an alarm clock. Like I can just wake up when I want. Well, now I have a 5-year-old. So for the parents out there, you already know. But you know what I'm saying? Like I don't have to turn on my phone's alarm clock unless I'm catching a flight early in the morning. And it really hit me on that bus in New York, like, I really get to do this. This is like wild, right? Yeah. But I love that my daughter gets to see that she does not have to fit in a box. And I think that's what it means for me now as a mom.
That's good.
Yeah.
you can show her a different way to build wealth in a different way and how she can allow that to work for her.
Yeah. So it's really special.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I would say if you're here and you're like, I really do want to invest in real estate, you really connect with this conversation on really experiencing freedom in different ways. And you're like, okay, where do I need to start? The Owning and Living It website, I have a free resource. I have a whole resource library full of resources, and there's a specific workshop that I have called Starting from Scratch. And I really break down what exactly I would do today, step by step, if I were starting back from scratch. So we're going to link that in the show notes. So I suggest that you go to that today and get started. And look around in all those resources. I have lots of free resources for you to get started. All right, Kendra. So where can the folks find you, and where also can they order acres?
So you can order acres. You can order acres at getyouracres.com. You can find me on Instagram at The Key Resource. Once you're there, click the link in my bio and everything else you need is right there. I have an amazing Facebook group community that I would love you guys to be a part of.
It's so good, y'all. If y'all not in that Facebook group yet, it's really, so good.
And not even to brag, but outside of my book, that Facebook group is probably the best part of my business.
Yes.
The vibes are immaculate.
You're
right?
It's like you're experiencing the owning and living experience in the Facebook group.
Yeah.
It's just like a hangout of Black and brown people figuring it out and sharing ideas. And
so join the group and then come join us in real life in November.
Kendra's going to be speaking, y'all. So y'all be there. Okay, guys, be sure to like and subscribe to this episode and comment and let me know what you thought about it. I'll see you at the next one. Thank you, friend.
Thank you.
Hey friend, have you been enjoying this podcast and you're like, okay, Erica, how can I connect with you and other of your amazing guests that are on the podcast? You can do that within the Owning It and Living It Facebook group. I have the Owning It and Living It Facebook group to help to foster community with other like-minded real estate investors. Folks are sharing advice, I'm sharing tips, and we're fostering community so we can help take our real estate investments to the next level. If you are ready to do that, I want you to join the Owning It and Living It Facebook group. You can go to the link in the bio to join today.